Great.
And let me just...
Let me see here.
Just make sure the sound is done. I say to people, we get it behind the scenes when we're doing this.
Okay.
All right, let me press record and we'll get started.
You're listening to another Ambitious Entrepreneur Network.com podcast, the voice for entrepreneurs and small business. Now, onto the show.
Welcome to the Christian Entrepreneurs Podcast, daily conversations with Christian entrepreneurs to inspire and empower Christian business owners to walk strongly in their faith, while build a thriving business that honors Him in every way. Now, over to your host, Anne-Marie Cross.
And welcome to another episode of the Christian Entrepreneurs Podcast. This is episode 126. And I'm your host, Anne-Marie Cross, the podcasting queen. My guest today says better is possible. And he's going to show us how with the strategies and information he's going to share. Now, joining me on today's show is James Luter. Now, James, I forgot to ask you, how do you pronounce your surname? Is that correct?
It's really close. It's actually Luter.
Luter. There you go. And I'll give it with a US accent too. James
Sounds
Luter.
great.
James is a certified life coach, a military spouse, and Navy veteran. And he recently founded Devoted Life Coaching, LLC, to fulfill his calling in life. Now, the mission of James's business is to help others find their purpose so that they can reach higher levels of success in their personal or their professional lives. Now, James' background consists of being a former US Navy firefighter, federal government employee, a licensed minister, and housing management supervisor. Now, on today's show, James is going to share that he's learned that it is hard to find true and sustainable success in life if you don't know who you are as a person. He's also going to talk about how he has learned that God's gifts will make room for us. With patience and diligence, you will be elevated if you do not waver or give up. And he's also going to talk about how God does not disown us because we have made mistakes. Welcome to the show, James.
Thanks for having me, Anne-Marie. I'm really excited to be a part of your show.
Oh, look, it's wonderful. And we've got the technology working, as we mentioned, before we press live and record. There's been a couple of guests today that we haven't been able to stream, but it just allows us to get that message out there in a bigger way. And I think what you want to talk about today is so important because so many people go through life and even in business, not really tapping into and fulfilling their full potential. And as we know, with God on our side, when we lean into Him, nothing is impossible. Every chain is breakable. I love that song. And you certainly will be talking more about this. You've had a diverse background.
Very, very diverse background. Being a military spouse, my wife's been active duty a little over almost 26 years now. And for us, we've been married 18 of those 26 years. And I was a prior Navy firefighter. So we move almost every 3 years. So that changes my career path a lot. So It's been an exciting journey. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think also too now with technology and so many of the new tools that allow us to work from anywhere, we really can be mobile in our business, that we find that we can tap into those tools. Have you found now with a lot of technology that you're able to take your client base with you because you're still able to work with them?
Yes, this has been the greatest time for me because for the first time in years, I'm able to build something that I can take with me.
Yes.
When I was in the federal government, I would change careers over and over again. Depends on what city I'm in or which country I'm living in at the time. So I'm really excited to be able to build something now that can last and I can take with me wherever I go.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that you've got such diverse strengths and talents and experience that you've generated over the years in your involvements. And I think now you've been able to encapsulate all of that as you are now working as a life coach. I'd love to just hear your feedback on what led you or guided you to take all of that experience and then say, you know what, now I want to become a life coach. Was it something that you were led to do, or something that was mentioned to you? How did that come out for you, that you decided this is really where I want to be now?
Yes, it's a pretty long story because it started early in the 90s. But to shorten it up, when I came out of the service, my mom had a community club called Devoted Women. And their mission was going out, helping the elderly and the sick in the community to feel welcomed and feel appreciated through their tough times. And that was my first glimpse into looking at service as a part of my life. So around 2000 is when I moved to Sicily, and everything that I was trying to do in my own strength just crumbled. I was running into roadblocks after roadblock, and God really blessed me to come back to him so he could show me my path. And that's when I started the journey. It was around early 2000 is when God really started dealing with me of who I am as a person and what I have to offer. So becoming a life coach wasn't something I was aware of at the time or really pursuing. I was trying to find a way to serve as many people as possible with the gifts and talent that I had. Yes. And fast forward to 2011, 2012, somewhere in that time frame. I moved back to America. I was living in Florida, and they told me I need a bachelor's degree to be eligible for jobs in the area. And at the time, I only had a 2-year degree. So I figured if I'm going to do a degree, I'm going to do something I want to do. So I went to a Christian university, and I studied psychology, which is something I was very interested in. And that psychology program offered life coaching. And I was like, wow, this is something I never heard of. You know, it was very new to me. So I pursued it, and I did well in it. And it was something that I used throughout my career, how to be a great supervisor and how to help others through their difficulties. And it just all came together. So from 1999 until 2017, a whole lot of things were happening to get me to this point. Yes. And I was sort of on track with it, but not really sure how it's going to all play and come together. So it's been a great journey.
Yes. I love the way that you've painted that picture so succinctly, because I think sometimes as you look back, you can really see God's direction and God leading you down the path. At the time, I think for many of us who are maybe even walking that journey, there can be a lot of confusion and doubt going up there, creeping around there. And I imagine that through that time, leaning into his word, and I'll certainly get you to share more about that, really saw you through. What would you say to someone then that maybe is in the season of their life where they are still really pinpointing and getting even more clarity around what it is that they want to do? Because what you've done is you didn't even realize that the skills that were developing in you and the strength, there was a job or a role that was there.
No.
To find what that is yet, you know, like the title. And so often we look for that title first, whereas actual fact, develop the skills and strengths, and that often it will appear. So what would you say to that person who's going through that season now?
I would just say, just continue to follow for me, it was like an urge. You know, God was urging me to do certain things, and reluctantly, at times I wouldn't do it, and sometimes I got pushed forward. So the more you work with God's calling, the easier it will become. Not saying that it won't be difficult, but things will flow a lot smoother. And I just encourage God, you know, if you have that desire in you and you think God is calling you to do something, just keep taking the initial steps that you can take. And if it's not the timing right now, he will stop you. So,
Absolutely.
yes.
One of the things I'd love to hear your feedback, James, on some of the things that God revealed to you as a person. Kind of like, when you say a prayer and you ask God, I'll give you the example of patience. You say, please, Lord, give me patience. Sometimes we just
That's a tough
like this, but it's through experiences and the waiting that you develop that muscle of patience. And for,
Yes.
people who are ambitious, we want to achieve goals and have dreams and everything. When we're in that waiting season, it can be really difficult. So I wonder, what are some of the greatest insights that you learned about yourself that now you can really see as a key foundation that for yourself, for your personal growth, but also maybe too, that you're modeling now for your clients?
Yes, I found it very important to know who you are as a person. When you strip away all the titles, all the different things you may have done in the past that made you feel good, when put all that to the side and really understand who you are as a person, that will allow you to make the best decisions possible. And for me, at the time when I became stripped away from all my titles, I was a firefighter, and I was doing okay for myself. And then I become married, I become a military spouse, and I can't do my job no more. So now what do I do? That's what I was trained in. I was trained in the military, and I was also trained through my state back in Mississippi. So I was a completely lost person. And that's what I encourage people to do. Step back and just really take the time to know who you are as a person. And that will allow you to deal with the different trials that come your way. Because like you were saying, we all are goal oriented. We want different things, and we want it to happen now most of the time. But a lot of times those goals are tied to other people's opinion or what you may think someone would think of you if you achieve those certain goals. So when you're operating in your own time, your own place of peace, your own self-awareness, you're able to kind of step back and say, oh, okay, it just ain't time for me right now, Lord, but I know you got something great for me. So like I say, it's not easy, but it's a better road to travel when you are only in competition with yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that you've said that. And I think especially too, I think there's certain qualities and characteristics, if you will, if we look at men and women, and I think, one of the things, and I've mentioned it previously, my background is in the career industry. And one of the things that I had to study was around the aspect of job loss. And particularly, I think when men, if I compare, and I am generalizing, so it's not for, that women can't experience this at all. I think that sometimes men really put their identity in the role, and as you said, in that job title, providing for the family and things like that. And when that's stripped away, without them really feeling in control, sometimes it can be hard to even express what it is that they're feeling, let alone work through that. So I think sometimes it's great to have, because I think if you now, being that you've gone through that, sometimes we develop, if you will, a deeper sense of compassion and empathy to be able to help someone else through that, through our own experience. Not that we can't help, but I guess you've got a greater awareness now, particularly to help others who are in that season of their life where they think, well, my identity, my titles, as the education that I have, is no longer relevant. And as we know, we live in a changing world where one day you can wake up and no longer have a role, that kind of thing. It really can impact self-esteem, self-confidence when you ask, who am I? Yes?
Yes. It could be very difficult. Like I say, for me, initially,
Yes.
it felt like everything was over for me. That was my first time since graduating high school that I just didn't know what was next. So it was a very dark time for me. And during that time, that's when God really showed himself to be true. And I just learned to trust him. I understood who I was as a person. I can't compete with this person or that person. I just have to deal with me. And that allowed me to go through these transitions, which is quite often. I go through them pretty regularly. But you understand that it's like a cycle. You're going to have a moment where it's going to be a little tough. It's going to be a little, a little difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the point where it's extreme highs.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in the back of your mind, oh, wow, it's going to come again. So that's kind of the military role. When you're moving from state to state, country to country, every 3 to 4 years, whatever I'm doing now, I can't do it at the next location. So it's a constant cycle that I don't think I could handle it had I not allowed God back into my life back in '99. Mm-hmm. So it's just a huge blessing to know who you are, have that firm foundation. Yes. That also helps you with not overspending, not over, it helps you to understand the cycles, because when the highs is high, you got to be storing away because it's coming again, and I'm always knowing that, wow, this is a great time in my life, but it's going to come to an end because I got to transition somewhere else. And each transition has led me to higher highs. I just don't know when that high is going to come. I just know it's coming.
Absolutely. I mean, in the Bible, we read, where a lot of them were farmers and they needed to store up their wheat in I'm not a farmer. So, the things that store wheat, the sheds.
Yeah. And
the cycles and things. And I think, often when we look at our situations now, no, obviously you had a different situation because, as you said, every 3 or so years you had to move. And if I think of having to do that, I mean, my goodness, you would certainly have to reevaluate a lot of things. So really, what is your foundation on? And I think if we look in business, if we put our foundation, our success and significance on what we are achieving, who we are, our identities, what the world tells us, I think we'll often be severely disappointed because of the fact that things change all the time.
Yes.
We know that God is ever the same. He never changes. His promise
exactly
is true. And when we base that on our foundation, even when things don't work out the way that we want, we're still, we know we can cling to the promise that tomorrow's another day. We just move forward. Talk a little bit around, you say that you've learned that God's gifts will make room for us. What do you mean about when you say that?
Yes. For me, I'm not a very talented guy. Didn't do well in sports. Wasn't the best student. I wasn't too crafty with my hands. Yeah. So everything goes back to that 99, 2000 time frame when me and God just had a really, really close relationship. And I started trying to figure out what's my purpose? Why am I here for? And so some of the things that I've learned that was great for me is time management. I try to be on time. I'm a pretty decent steward of my money. I'm also a giver. So I enjoy helping others. I enjoy serving. So I have taken those gifts just in some people have great gifts, they're creative, they're all these things. But I had to find what was my gifts and how did that fit into the body, and I have used that. And it has always served me well, just being on time, being committed to whatever project I commit to, so if I say I'm gonna be in it, I try to commit to it. And service, those three things has allowed me to be humble enough to take bottom level jobs and rise very quick. Because I don't mind serving. And while I'm serving at the lower level, I'm learning. And that has always opened doors for me. And that's why I say about your gifts will make room for you. Some of us think is maybe your writing abilities or your speaking abilities, or maybe you're an artist, you can sing, dance, whatever those are. There's also some smaller gifts in there that God can use as well. And for me, I had to find, it was hard. I was digging because I didn't have all those things that was so bright and shiny, in my opinion. I was not a writer. I didn't really enjoy reading a lot. That was something that was pressed up on me to get me to where I'm at today. That was definitely a God thing. It was not of my own. But
You know,
God has given us those gifts to bless us. You know, whatever you do well, whatever comes naturally to you, He's given us those things so we can be blessed.
Absolutely.
And that's what I believe. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I'm in a very gentle way going to challenge you on that you said you didn't have a lot of those gifts. I believe each and every one of us has got gifts and strengths that we can impart to others. And, you know, I remember having a conversation with my mother. She's nearly 99. And she would often say she was a kindergarten teacher, but she was a stay-at-home mum. She had part-time jobs and things like that. But she would often say to me, even when I was an adult, oh, yeah, I don't have very many gifts. But did you know she had even though she liked to talk, she had a level of patience where she could allow someone to talk, even if they had said that over and over to her again and again, and seem, you know, interested, because she was. And I said, Mum, that is a gift in itself, because I would have fallen off the chair. People could tell that I, you know, some people have got those expressions and you just know exactly what they're thinking. I said, that is a gift, to listen, to be that shoulder, to talk, because that's what she said. All I can do is talk and listen. And I think, you know, it's such a great reminder that no matter what gift that we are, everyone is valuable. And in my career, if I put my career coach's hat on, from the person who sweeps the floor to the CEO, if they weren't doing the role on time and correctly, then the team would just not be able to function. I think that's a great reminder that no matter where we're placed with the kingdom, it is all very important. So thank you for sharing that too. Let's talk about God does not disown us because we have made mistakes. Isn't it interesting, James, that even as Christians, we feel sometimes embarrassed to pray or approach the throne because we think, oh, I've done that again, or I've made that mistake. It's kind of like, is there a list somewhere that, you know, God wrote that says, you know, Jesus, you know, son died for you, my son died for you, but not for these sins. These ones, like, seriously, why do we do that as Christians?
I know it's a very tough situation. A lot of times it's dealing with probably your upbringing, how you feel about the church as a whole. And you know, as human beings, we are very judgmental upon ourselves. So if we judge ourselves so harshly, we're definitely going to think God is just very displeased with us, you know. But I like to look at it through the eyes of my family. I have two boys, a 15-year-old and a 6-year-old. There's not too many things they can do that'll make me disown them. I just can't imagine something that they could do so horrible that I would say, wow, these are not my kids. And even with my wife, I don't think she could do something that, oh, I don't know you no more. You're not my, you know. So God is a lot greater than that. You know, he loves a whole lot better than I can love. And when you understand that he's not judging you, he's basically trying to get you to be better so you can freely share his love to the world. And that's all he's trying to do. Through your business, through your career, through your relationships. It's not about being perfect or trying to judge someone else that may not be at the same level you are on. It's being able to accept who you are as a person, accept his free gift, so you can share it with those that are really hurting, that doesn't know the hope that we have. So it's just a beautiful situation that God has looked up on us as the jewel of his eye, and he doesn't think no different, no matter what we do. So it's just a blessing.
It is absolutely a blessing. It's such a great reminder for all of us. I think it can be so easy to judge ourselves, and sometimes, and a lot of the time, to judge others. And I think as Christians, we're reminded that even Jesus, you know, in so many of the stories that were shared in the Bible, when he approached someone to not discipline, but to share what the truth was, he did so in love, and there was never real condemnation. You know, and he did not sin at all. And, you know, for him to model that to us, I think is something that we need to continue. And I'm a bit of a joker at times. And sometimes, you know, my husband and I, or someone will be talking, it'll be like, whoa, you know, it's kind of Dutch. What did you do that for? And it says, oh, you know, as you turn that. that log in your eye just about hit me, you know. Because in the Bible it says, you know, don't take the speck out of someone else's eye when you've got a log in your own eye. And it's a great reminder, isn't it? I think sometimes how we have a conversation with someone who maybe, as you said, does not know the hope that we have in Christ, that our attitude and our approach, and if we can share the truth in love, then that may just be the difference between them opening up, you know, to have a further conversation, or shutting us down if we're very judgmental. And I think even with other Christians as well, what would you say to someone then that maybe is in a season of their life where they have been really down on themselves and they're carrying around guilt and shame that, because of things that they may have done in the past or said in the past? What was something, maybe a Bible verse that you read that really continued to uplift you so that you were able to, you know, go to the throne and just say, Lord, I'm sorry, please forgive me? What are there any verses that that were really important at that time for you?
Well, I was brought up heavy in the church, so it's a lot of things go through my mind all the time. But the thing to me is just the love God has for us. You know, it's the favorite scripture of, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. You know, if someone is dealing with the I guess guilt and shame of life, maybe something they have done, and maybe some situation they have been in that they are very displeased with themselves about. The only person that I know that you can trust to take care of that situation and still love you unconditionally is God. Jesus is standing by at all times, willing and able to take you in his arms and love on you just the way you are. And that's what happened to me. When I was in my darkest moment, I found myself at the altar, and the preacher was preaching. He told me in my ear, you don't have to be ashamed anymore. And that changed my entire life, because when you grew up in the church, you know the things you probably shouldn't be doing. And then you find yourself doing those things, and you just, you know, you beat yourself up day in and day out. Wow, I want to do better, but, you know, and to have those words whispered in my ear that I do not have to be ashamed any longer was just the comfort that I needed. And that's my encouragement, my word I would give to anyone. You don't have to be ashamed. You know, you may not have to go out and tell the world everything you've done. You know, that's none of their business. But you can have comfort and peace in knowing that God, he would not tell your story. You know, he would just welcome you with open arms and love on you. And if it comes a time when you decide to share your story, it's fine. You know, I could share any part of my life now. It really doesn't bother me at all. You know? So it's just to get yourself out of the doubt of who God loves. I mean, I would say get yourself to believe that God really loves you. Try him for yourself. Taste and see that he's good for yourself. And I can guarantee and promise you that you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, so true. And I think, you know, sometimes it's such a great, well, not sometimes, it's a great reminder for all of us that if we are feeling shame and guilt, it's certainly not coming from God. That's often what the enemy does, to keep us stuck, to keep us distracted, and even whispering in our ear, you can't go to God with that. He's not going to forgive you for that. Well, let's just call BS on that. That is absolutely
exactly.
He will forgive you if you approach his throne and say, Lord, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Then, you know, your sins are forgiven. And by the way, do not carry half of that baggage with you again around your life. Leave it at the throne. Leave it at the throne. It is forgiven, forgotten, and we can certainly move on. James, it's been such an honor speaking with you today. Share a little bit more about the work that you do, so that if someone's listening or watching, maybe themselves or they know someone who certainly could reach out and get further support from you, how they do that. So what do you do specifically? What do you love to do? And then what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Great. It's been an honor as well. I've really enjoyed being your guest today. And what I do at Devoted Life Coaching is I call it the best possible strategy. I'm a life coach, but it all boils down to those 3 steps, and I call it the BIP. first I try to help everyone that I encounter to believe in the person that God has created you to be. So that goes back to find your purpose, understanding your strengths and your weaknesses, and why are you here on earth? What's the big picture for you? And the second thing is which is identifying your strengths and weaknesses. Your strengths and weaknesses. What things are you good at? What things do you enjoy? And how to use those in your life, in your career, your relationships to better your situation and your quality of life. And the third is the P, is positioning. Once you know who you are, you can identify your strengths and weaknesses. Now it's time to position yourself in the right situation that's going to allow you to grow and thrive in life. And the great thing about it is it's unique to each and every one of us. So your path will not be the same path as mine. I can't do the same thing you do, but God's promises is the truth. He will bless you when you're in the right position. And when you where you're supposed to be, doing the things you're supposed to be doing, God will bless you. And that's the testament I've had over and over again. Like I say, for me, finding out who I was as a person and being able to put myself in those right paths and right positions, it has served me well over the 18 so years of moving all around the world. Yeah. And that's what I try to do in my business each and every day, to encourage people to first know who you are, really understand that you are a precious gift and that you have something to offer to the world. Some of us have greater, well, it may seem greater than others, but we are all very important in the big picture of things. Mm-hmm. And we all have strengths and weaknesses. So if you are weak in an area, that doesn't make you a bad person. You just need to understand what are your weaknesses and how to use your strengths to keep you moving forward. So that's what I do. And again, my business is Devoted Life Coaching, LLC. And I could be located online at devotedlifecoaching.com or on Facebook at Devoted Life Coaching. And I do newsletters once a week. I do tons of inspirational messages all the time. So a lot of the things I do, I almost give it's a free thing. I'm trying to, at this point, I had a health scare a year ago, and the business that I'm doing now, I thought was not, it wasn't time yet. So I kept putting it off. So I had a health scare that really, really, really shook me. And I said, okay, now's the time. I don't know. It was a back issue. So I'm trying to get everything out of me as possible. So I'm constantly just giving. God has blessed me. I know he'll take care of the business part, but at this point in my life, I really have to give. And it's just a blessing for me to be able to help anyone that's looking to find purpose in their life so they can really enjoy life as God has intended.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we'll put all of James' contact details on the show notes, ambitiousentrepreneurnetwork.com/TCE126. James, one of the things I'm doing for all of my guests is just to close the show with a word of prayer. May I do that for you Amen. As well?
Yes, great.
Father God, thank you for the words that we have been able to hear from James today, and really be blessed in being reminded of how important it is as we are searching for our identity, especially if, like James's experience, we're going through change, maybe in a role, or maybe moving to a different city, or even a country. There can be so much hesitation, I guess, around that, particularly if we're feeling unclear and uncertain about what the future holds. So we just want to pray for James and the continued work that he's doing, for the clients that he is supporting, and for future clients as well. And if anyone's hearing the show or listening or watching the show and can really resonate with that message, we just want to extend a prayer that they will too get the clarity required, and also be reminded that our identity is not in what the world says, it's not in our success, it's not in how big we grow our businesses. It really is in who you say that we are. and we're reminded that we are your children. Father, we just want to uphold James's family, his children, his wife in our prayers too, that they will continue to support as he's growing his business. And we just ask this in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much
for coming on the show and just sharing that message. I think there are so many men particularly who have gone through different changes in their lives, circumstances that was beyond their control, that certainly maybe, doubting what's my identity moving forward. Is this all there is? And as you've said, what better is possible, no matter what situation you are in. Better is possible, and you've certainly shared that with us today, as well as reaching out for people to reach out and connect with you so you can support them through your coaching. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Christian Entrepreneurs Podcast, brought to you by BeTheDifferenceMovement.com. Changing the world one message at a time. Do you feel called to influence real change with your message? Join our supportive community of like-minded influencers, thought leaders, and disruptors at www.BeTheDifferenceMovement.com. That's BeTheDifferenceMovement.com.